chocolate break. Appendix to Step 3, Bio Magnetism. Let us deal with another specific property of the vital energy, which is of particular relevance for the magic work. As we have already seen, each object, each animal, each human being, each form of ideas can be charged with vital force and the corresponding desire of realization. The vital force, however, has the property of accepting any, also strangers' ideas and feelings, influencing or combining them. The concentrated vital force, therefore, would soon mingle with other ideas, a fact which would reduce the effect of the impregnated thought or even scuttle it, if the magician did not provoke a reinforced tension by frequent repetition, thus reviving the desire or the idea. But this often means loss of time and is not very favourable to the final success. The desired influence will persist only as far as the tension is effective in the desired direction. Then the vital force will dissolve, mingle with other vibrations, and the effect is fading away by and by. To prevent this, a magician ought to be well acquainted with the laws of biomagnetism. The vital force accepts not only an idea, a concept, a thought, or a feeling, but also involves time ideas, this law respectively. This specific property of the vital virtue must be considered when working with it or later on with the elements. Therefore, when impregnating desires with the aid of vital energy, remember time and space. In magic work, you have above all to consider the following rules. Working in the Akasha principle is timeless and spaceless. In the mental sphere, you operate with the time. In the astral sphere, you work with the space, shape, colour. In the material world, you work with time and space simultaneously. In light of some examples, I am going to explain the functions of biomagnetism. With the help of your vital force, charge a room with the desire that you feel well in it. Enthrall this force with the desire that, as long as you live in the room, the influence should persist. Continue renewing and keep doing so, even when you left the room and are absent for some time. Should anyone else enter your room ignoring that there is an accumulation of vital force, he will feel very comfortable in your dwelling. Now and again, you can reinforce the density and power of your radiant energy in your room by repeating the desire. If you live in a room influenced in such a favourable way, the stored vital force will always exert a good influence on your health, consequently your body. The vital force in this room has the desire vibration of the health. If, however, you intend to do occult exercises in this room, which have nothing at all to do with health, following another thought vibration, you will not book the same good results as in an unloaded room or in a room you have charged with a desire responsive to your idea. Therefore, it is always advisable to load the room with the thought vibrations corresponding to your respective works and experiments. So, for instance, you might charge a ring, a stone, or any other object with the wish that the person wearing it should be favoured by fortune and success. Now, there are two possibilities of fixing and timing. The first method consists in fixing the vital virtue on the stone or the metal with your imagination and your concentrated wish, timing it so that the force shall remain forever in it, drawing even further force from the universe to bring fortune and success to the person concerned, as soon as she will wear the object. You may, of course, load the object you choose for a short time only, if you like, so that the influence is broken off as soon as the purpose aimed at is attained. The second possibility is called the universal loading, which is operated in the same way, including, however, the concentrated wish that as long time as the object, in brackets, ring, stone, jewellery, exists, the bearer of it should be benefited by fortune, success, etc. Such universal loadings performed by an adept will keep their virtues and their effects for centuries. As we have learned from the history of the Egyptian mummies, such fixed forces continue acting for thousands of years. If a talisman or an object destined and loaded for a definite person individually falls into the hands of someone else, he will not experience the least influence. But if this object returns to the true owner, this influence will go on acting. Now let me describe another field where vital force is active, namely that of healing magnetism. If a magician treats a sick person, no matter whether personally by magnetic strokes or by putting on hands or at distance, for example by imagination and willpower, he must exactly observe the law of time if he wants to be successful. The routine manner of magnetizing is as follows. The magnetizer, with the aid of imagination, makes his vital force flow out of his body, mostly from his hands, into the sick person. This method supposes the magnetizer to be positively, turning the page, to be positively sound and to have a surplus of vital force, unless he will bring into danger his own health. I am sorry to say that I have seen bad cases where the magnetizer, by excessive transfer of his own vital force, suffered so heavy damages of his health that he faced nearly a complete nervous breakdown, apart from the other side effects such as diseases of the heart and so on. Such consequences are unavoidable if the magnetizer spends more force than he is able to restore, especially if he is treating several patients at once. This method presents another disadvantage, namely the magnetizer, with his own force, transfers his own psychic vibrations and character traits onto the patient, influencing him indirectly in a psychic way too. Therefore, every magnetizer is supposed and required to be of a noble character. Yet, if a magnetizer has a patient whose character properties are worse than his own, he indirectly will draw the evil influences of the patient on himself, which is disadvantageous for the magnetizer at all events. The magnetizer, however, who has been trained in occultism, does give the patient not all the vital force of his own body, but draws it from the universe and makes it stream into the patient's body directly through his hands, together with the concentrated desire of health. With both methods, magnetizing has to be often repeated if one wants a quicker success, for disharmony or diseases suck in and consume the transferred force very rapidly and are, as it were, greedy of a further supply of force, so that the treatment has to be repeated soon to avoid the state growing worse. It is otherwise with the magician. The patient feels relieved only when the magician has been psychically opened, i.e., if he has accomplished a dynamic accumulation of vital force in his own body and emits light rays of vital force. The magician can employ many methods successfully, but always must he maintain the imagination combined with the desire concentration, wishing that the patient be better and better hour by hour from day to day. Some methods will follow, the use of which will help a magician in the treatment of diseases. Above all, he must be well versed in the diagnosis of diseases and their symptoms. He will gain this knowledge through a careful study of the respective literature. Anatomical knowledge is absolutely indispensable. He will not be so careless as to treat diseases necessitating a rapid chirurgical intervention or infectious diseases. But in such cases, he will be able to accelerate the healing process and contribute to soothe the pains beside the medical treatment. He can manage doing so even at a distance. Very serviceable it would be if physicians specialize themselves on this field and, besides the allopathic art, learn to employ the magic practice. Therefore, the magician should only treat such sick persons as are recommended for this kind of treatment directly by a physician, or work together with a physician to avoid to be regarded as a quack or a charlatan. He should follow his calling from pure love of his neighbours, and not for the purpose of earning money or as a means of enriching himself. Do not climb upwards on credulities of mankind. Hold on to the ideal of goodness, and blessings will not fail. Ideally, coloured magicians will help sick persons without them knowing anything. This kind of help is the most blissful. Let me add some of the most conventional methods a magician can make use of without risking to endanger his health and nervous system. Before approaching a sick person's bed, do 7 breaths at least. Through the lungs and pores, accumulate an enormous amount of vital force, drawing it from the universe into your body, and let this vital force shine like a sun in the brightest light. Try, by repeated inhaling of the vital force, to produce a radiant energy of 10 yards at least around your body, which corresponds approximately to a vital force of 10 normal persons. You ought to feel as if your accumulated vital force were lighting up like a sun. If, in such a radiance, you happen to be close to a patient, we will instantly experience a relief. A sensation of ease, and if not afflicted by an ill too painful, he will feel an immediate alleviation. You transfer the accumulated radiant energy quite individually to the patient, and it is left to you to act as you like. A skilled magician need no magic strokes nor put up hands, all that being only auxiliary manipulations, supports, as it were, of the utterance of his will. It will suffice completely if the magician seizes the patient by one, eventually by both hands, and begins to work with imagination. He may keep his eyes open or closed during this operation. If he wants, he may look straight at the patient, but he need not do it directly. Here it is exclusively the imagination which is working, but during the whole act of power transference, the magician may also sit by the patient without contacting him personally. Imagine that the radiant energy surrounding you will stream forth into the patient's body and, with your imagination as it were, be pressed into it, penetrating and illuminating all the pores of the sick person. Let your willpower order the compressed radiant energy to bring about the recovery of the patient. Take a sip of hot choc or 2 or 3. Lovely. Where were we? All the time, you have to be absolutely convinced that the patient is feeling better from 1 hour to the next one, that he does look better every day, and you must also order the radiant energy not to escape from the body before the patient has fully recovered. Loading the body of a patient quantitatively with the radiant energy, which in a sound person means a radiance range of 1 yard, in brackets 1 meter, you will be able to bring about recovery in a surprisingly short time in proportion to the kind of illness. Do repeat the loading after a while. Reinforce the tension of the concentrated radiant energy, and you will be very surprised indeed at noticing the wonderful success you have accomplished. First of all, the radiant energy cannot escape because you did fix it, ordering it to renew itself continually. Secondly, you did fix the time so that the body should feel better from hour to hour, from day to day. And thirdly, you have proportioned to the power the space corresponding to the circumference of the body. At this point, it should be recommended to fix the power of radiation about 1 yard, again brackets 1 meter, outside the body, which is equal to the radiation of a normal human being. With this method, you have now fulfilled the main condition of the material law of time and space. While using this method, the magician will notice that his radiant energy, which he transferred to the patient, does not diminish but keeps on lighting up in the same intensive manner as before. This is to impute to the fact that the vital power accumulated in the body renews itself automatically, similar to communicating pipes, instantly replacing the radiated power. It is therefore quite obvious that a magician is able to treat hundreds of patients without ruining his mental strength or his nerves. A different method has to be used if the magician is pressing the vital power directly into the patient's body or into the sick part of the body only by way of the pores, together with the imagination of renewing itself constantly from the universe till the moment of complete recovery is reached. Here, the imagined desire of completing recovery is limited to time and space as well. But this method is only practiced with patients whose nervous system is not yet wholly exhausted and can, consequently, bear a certain pressure of the accumulated vital power. With a well-trained magician, of course, the accumulated vital force is, as it were, materialized already. That means it is condensed material power, which can be compared to electricity. This method, in comparison with the others, is the most popular because it is very simple and exceedingly effective. A very peculiar method is to let the patient inhale one's own radiant power emanation with the help of the imagination. Presuming the patient to be able to concentrate, he can do so by himself. Otherwise, the magician has to perform the imagination instead of the patient. In practice, the occurrence is as follows. Your radiant energy is emitting up to a range of 10 yards, in brackets 10 meters. As you happen to be near the patient, he is actually swimming in the light of your radiation, which has been impregnated with the desire of recovery. The patient on whom this power has been concentrated will be firmly convinced that he is inhaling your radiant energy with your every breath and will get well. He must imagine intensively that the healing power will remain in him and that he will go on feeling better and better even when the magician will no longer be near him. Presuming the patient to be unable to concentrate, or in the case of sick children, you imagine yourself that the patient with every inhaling accepts your own radiation of vital power, conveys it to the blood, and will bring about a complete recovery. Here also, you will have to concentrate on the wish that the force inhaled by the patient should keep on working positively in him. This has been an example of vital force transference from the magicians to another body by breathing. We can rely here on the word of the Bible when our Lord Jesus Christ was touched by a sick woman in the hope of recovery. Our Lord did feel the diminution of his vital power, and he remarked to his disciples, "I have been touched." Working with vital power and magnetism, one has to consider time and space. With a view to this fact, I have quoted several examples concerning the treatment of diseases, and I could still mention quite a number of methods for treating sick people from the magnetic standpoint. The magician, for example, is capable to take up a connection with the mind of a sleeping patient and to realize various methods of treatment to the patient's body. Apart from treating the sick with vital power, he can also cure them magically with the help of the elements magnetism and electricity. The detailed description of all the methods and possibilities of treatments would certainly fill a very voluminous book. In this work, I am only going to point out single procedures of treatment with regard to time and space, that is, magnetism. High adepts and saints who have trained their imagination to such a perfection that all their imageries are realized immediately in all planes do not need methods anymore. Such people have only to express any kind of desire, and it will be realized the very same moment. Summary of all exercises step 3. 1. Magic mental training. 1. Concentration of thoughts with 2 or 3 senses at once. 2. Concentration of objects, landscapes, places. 3. Concentration of animals and human beings. 2. Magic psychic training. 1. Inhaling of the elements in the whole body. A. Fire - warmth. B. Air - lightness. C. Water - coolness. D. Earth - gravity. 3. Magic physical training. 1. Retaining of step 1, which has to become a habit. 2. Accumulation of vital power. A. By breathing through the lungs and pores in the whole body. B. In the different parts of the body. Appendix to step 3. 3. Impregnation of space for reasons of health, success, etc. 4. Biomagnetism. End of step 3.